I move to accept the agenda as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about the agenda? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. So motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, next item is the budget hearing. The 2020-2021 budget was posted in the Hayes Daily News on August 12th, 2020, along with a notice of a public hearing, which is tonight. The board will vote on the budget, but first I want to invite comments. If anyone would like to speak to the board about the budget, please do so. Come forward to the podium.
Not everybody at once.
Anyone? Okay. All right. Public comment section is closed. Do I have a motion to accept the 2020-2021 budget as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Tammy. I need a second.
Second.
Okay,
Maybe.
Craig. Any discussion?
Chris, do we have just a couple highlights from the budget? Just a little quick review.
So
Okay.
everybody's got a copy there, and there's copies up here if anybody would want one. Just run through, I guess I'll run through really quickly kind of the process that we go through.
Yep.
So when we're setting the budget, what we're doing is we're estimating our weightings for this year. So the things like pre-introduced lunch that go into your at-risk weightings, and transportation, how many kids are going to ride the bus, and different things like that. So those weightings we're estimating in year. Our base state aid is based off of either last year or the year before, so either year previous or 2 years previous on the base state aid. So that number is set, we know that. But our weightings do affect our general fund. So that's going to set our general fund amount. From the general fund amount, then we have 30% goes into what's called that local option budget or the supplemental. And then the mills, and really what we publish is how many mills will it take to fund that local option budget at 30%.
Okay.
As the year goes on, if say we estimated one number for pre-introduced count, and that number comes in a little bit low, or we estimate what we're going to spend, say, in special education, and that number comes in, maybe that number comes in a little lower than what we had estimated, then that brings our general fund authority down a little bit, which then means that we've got some money in carryover in supplemental general, because we can only spend 30% of general fund, but we're setting our taxes tonight to fund that at 30%. And so when you look at what we published, you can see that we're actually going down a little bit in our total mill assessment. Most of that is due to just some money that's carrying over in local option budget. We had a few less pre-introduced lunch kids and a couple of less bus riders, and those different things kind of add up over time to where we had money that was levied this year, or last year, I'm sorry, FY20, that carried into FY21, which means that we were able to lower the total mill levy this year to be able to fund the budget where we're at.
Very good.
This year is a bit of a guess also, so we're guessing all of those weightings, and it's a little more volatile probably this year than it has been in the past. So it wouldn't surprise me to see mill levy move up or down a little bit next year based on, changes that we miss on some of those estimates this year.
Okay.
Your capital outlay, which is used, for capital expenditures in the buildings and grounds, things like that, that's set at 8 mills. So it generates whatever the county valuation is worth. And the county valuation did go down a little bit, but still stayed pretty healthy and had been up in FY20 over FY19. So we're still in pretty good shape, and we're generating about what we, a couple of years, as we project out a couple of years, we're able to generate in that capital outlay with our 8 mills about what we thought. And so one thing that may stand out to you when you look at our published authority in capital outlay, it looks like we're going to spend way more money in capital outlay than we did last year. That's not the case. We'll end up carrying over probably about the same amount based on the 8 mills and the revenue coming in, barring anything unexpected. And that's why we publish high, is to have authority. So if For instance, if the Roosevelt Heating and Air couldn't have waited and we had to do something last year, mid-year, we would have had the authority to use some of the capital outlay reserve money that we have to go ahead and move forward with that project. And so we do the same thing this year, publishing higher based on the amount of money that we have, but really setting our internal budget to carry over about the same amount, depending on, you know, unexpected things as they go. That is, I guess that's kind of the nutshell. Be happy to stand for any questions or comments before too.
I know it was a different year, and you were able to really get started sooner and move right on through. I appreciate that. And hopefully next year it will work the same way, that we can get the budget done. And if anything, if you can bring it to the board earlier just for review, I think that helped us. I think we were cramming a lot to look at the budget over the last few weeks just to try to make sense of it, and some of it's just because I'm new on the board. And a couple of comments. I was happy to, when you look at the percentages, like on instruction, student support services, and instructional support services, the percent stayed the same. The state was really pushing that we stay over that 60% mark, and we're still doing it, especially if you add all three of those line items together. So I'm glad to see we're not going to be called out for not hitting 60% of the budget.
Appreciate that. I think historically, looking back, of course, this is the first one that I'm doing here at 49, but looking back historically, the district does a really good job of putting their money to kids and making sure that it's in the classroom. And I think that philosophy really is what drives creating the budget. I know it does always feel rushed when we're at this point in time, but hopefully, and I can tell you, moving forward for sure, we'll continue that. I think it's the philosophy and the conversation around where do you want your, you know, the tax money to go, how do you want your schools to operate, are the kind of marching orders we use when it comes time to put this together, because like you're saying, Craig, it is, most of the time, this process is really pretty rushed by the time we get done with legislative session, getting all the software in, and it's kind of working backwards, saying, okay, now here's the number of mills, or here's the amount of money that we've got now, based on all of the conversations we've had throughout the year, this is where we're going to put it to try and match up with that. So, yeah, I welcome those conversations throughout the year.
I also think the great thing, and that's one of the keys to where Chris has been. He's been in the classroom. He's an educator. He understands what the mission is in those classrooms, and so having someone with that background and understanding when we have to figure things out and maybe ask for some line items to be maybe increased or things like that, he gets why, and he's not just a bookkeeper and sometimes he just only looks at numbers. He understands the kid perspective that goes into that. So really appreciate that.
Good.
One thing that would be helpful for me is, and we used to get this, it was called a building request expenditure plan, and it was given to the board usually in May, and it shows what the goals are by building and all the different plans for capital outlay, and that was very helpful, I think, for the board to be able to look at that. And then it also, at that time, it used to be a huge long list, sometimes multiple pages, of unfunded capital outlay items. And so,
we're already planning that. We'll probably have that's something. Oh, Rusty's not here.
Rusty's not here, but yeah, we've been on a pretty regular basis putting together. So he brought that same I guess request or the history that, okay, here's what we've done in the past, and it's been. We're speeding up that timeline basically to start those conversations now for that same reason that Greg's talking about feeling a little bit rushed. In the past, I think it's been a spring kind of a thing going around and saying, okay, what do you want done over the summer? And we're really in the process of doing that right now so that we can not only plan through this year, but then look out a couple of years of where are we headed. And he's worked really hard, and he's got his triage plan, but now we're taking that out to, getting ready to take that out once we get school up and running, meeting with the building principals and doing some facility tours and starting to put together, here's the things that are going to be funded, here's the things we'd like to be funded, here's the things that we need to do, but we don't have the money to do it right now.
That'd be helpful, and that will give us information that when people ask us, what about this, what about that, and things, say, well, we know it's on the list, and we're, there's a plan to take care of that. And so that information will be very helpful to us. And plus, we know if it's broken down by school, we'll know, are we leaving anybody out? Are we, as a board, are we looking at all the pieces? I know you guys are, and we appreciate that, but then that'll give us that information so we can look at it. So thank you.
I do appreciate, by the way, the time that you spent with us, explaining budget to us as well. My understanding level became much better because of that. And I just appreciate your time and effort in doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, I'll echo those sentiments. You're doing a great job, and we really appreciate the team you put together, Ron. It's the information we're getting is much better than we've received in the past, I believe, and it is more understandable. So this is great. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. We've had discussion. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of accepting the 2020-2021 budget as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, next is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes board meeting minutes for August 10th, 2020, the Hayes Recreation Commission agenda for August 26th, and minutes from July 21st. Personnel transactions and financials. Let's get rolling here. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you, Lance. Okay, any discussion about the consent agenda?
I just had one on the finances. I've talked to Chris about a couple of different items, and I still want to keep hitting on, we have a very large expenditure through one vendor this time, and I really hope and would hope that we would look at any local vendors. We've been with this vendor for, I believe, the last 6 or 7 years. I don't know if we've tried to see if there's any vendors out there locally that could and keep the money in town. So that would be my hope that we could do that.
Yep, good plan. Okay, I would like to recognize a few retirements from the personnel transactions section. Thomas Corner served with the district for 9 years as a bus driver, and Judy Corner served for 6 years as a bus monitor. Evelyn Junker served USD 49 for 36 years, mostly as a kitchen manager, or most recently as a kitchen manager for the Hayes Middle School. So working for 36 years with middle schoolers, I think that deserves a special note. So thank you very much for your service. I usually read a list of names of the new and returning employees, but we have 31 folks to recognize tonight, so I think I will simply leave you with this. Things are only impossible until they are not. Anyone know that quote? Captain Jean-Luc Picard from the Starship Enterprise. Okay, any more discussion?
Mike, thanks for recognizing all the retirements. I just want to comment, I worked with Evelyn for 25 years and spent time with the kitchen and, well, all of our staff members, especially, she really made the middle school feel special. Being the cafeteria manager, she worked with kids, with teachers, with staff, and I just appreciate staying in that position for 25 years. So I wanted to recognize that.
That's great. No, I appreciate you saying something. Okay, very good. I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, now we're at item 4, public comment. This is an opportunity to speak to board members. Would anyone like to address the board? Okay. All right. Move on. Next item is presentations. We have something pretty exciting, I think. We're going to talk first about the radio station at Hayes High School. So,
Yeah.
Dan's coming down to join us.
okay, good.
Special treatment, the wizard comes out with mine.
Yeah, very good.
Scott Summers, I'm the IT director. I've got Neil Ballman, teacher at the high school, and then Chandler Kitchen. He is one of our district IT technicians. I'm also very excited about this. It's not something I never, ever thought in my time working in a school district I'd have to talk about, but here we are. What we're looking at is the purchase of a low-power FM station here in Hayes. Kind of the history behind that. There are high schools out there that have FM stations. The FCC has not opened that program up in over 15 years. So really the only way to go about being a school with a station is to acquire a low-power FM station that's with a nonprofit currently. We had an opportunity present itself. Chandler came and talked to me one day about it. Seventh Day Adventist, the church out on 2-1, they have the radio station right now. They're not looking to continue with it, so at that point, you have to shut the station down. That station happens to be the last low-power FM station in Hayes. So we're looking at kind of an opportunity that if that goes away and the FCC doesn't open that program up again, odds are this would never have a chance to come into fruition. I know Dan, talking with him, this is something that is kind of a dream to see come the way of the high school. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add, or at least from the technical side, Chandler and I can try to answer some questions. I've been working with an FCC contact out of Wichita to try to get all the registration paperwork done and transfer ownership of the station to the school district. So that is in process right now. It just hasn't fully. Dan can answer any questions from the curriculum side or how that division. So.
Great. All right.
This opportunity was presented, and it's a very unique opportunity that I don't think any other high school in Kansas would ever have. We actually will be the second high school in the state with an FM. And I've always been a radio nerd, so if I had this opportunity in high school, I'd be like a kid at a candy store all over this opportunity. I've actually had the opportunity to go down with Garden City's program and kind of see the equipment, everything. And I tell you, they have a room like this, and it's just full of Kansas Association of Broadcasters awards because they're competing against themselves in radio. So I think this will be a fun opportunity for students at Hayes High to just get in there and just have some competition, from Hayes.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm Dan Ballman. I teach American government and video productions
Okay.
and intro to video productions. Do you have any questions for me before?
Are you going to develop a new class for this, or are you going to be able to squeeze it in one of your classes that you already teach?
I might have to try to squeeze it into one of my video productions class. I've been down in video productions by myself since 2010 for 10 years. Used to be 2 full-time people down there, Dave Reynolds, myself, and then Karina Bean was down there for a year. So it's tough. Just doing the video production on my own, it's very, very difficult. And to take on the radio now, it's going to be a little bit more challenging, especially I've got a full plate with American Government and Video Productions. I'll probably be looking for, to a lot of the local talent with Gerard Welbrock and Dustin Armbruster to get some help and to see what they can help out with this new program. But I haven't been on the air since 1984 in the Jack Heather at KFHS. So it's been a long time since I've been on the air. We don't use cards anymore. For the lead-track tape thing. So it's a whole new ballgame, and so I'll be learning this right along with the kids. And Chandler was a Russell. I know when I had one of my students at Hayes High, when Tom was at Hayes High, they went to ask Tom if Tom Albers if it would be okay if we started a radio station online, and Tom and Mark were, absolutely, that's a great idea. But we've had some issues with some stream licensing and things, and so that was kind of put on the back burner, and I got an email from Chandler over the summer, and I was like, kid me, let's do this. The kids can, any opportunity for kids is awesome. And this is brand new, going to be brand new to them, and I'm excited for the kids, I really am. I believe we're going to see our program grow leaps and bounds now. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but as long as I have some support from administration and Scott and Chandler and Dustin and Gerard and Jonathan's wife, we'll be okay. But it's going to take it'll take a little time.
So you're going to be able to move the equipment from where it is now to the school. What about the antenna?
These guys.
Okay, just curious.
So we are looking at that. We would have to go out and remove the antenna, but that is part of the equipment sale.
Okay.
I guess I should say it's, I think right at $3,000 was the purchase, and that's giving us the antenna, the transmitter,
EAS.
and the emergency alert system.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just going to be a little bit behind this. I mean, it's going to be a full functioning, although low power, 101 station. We do have to comply with some FCC requirements as far as the emergency alert and monitoring and station identification. I think it's 36 hours a week of broadcast. So even through the summer months, we can't broadcast dead air. We have to do something. So there's going to be some cost or some time around that. But after the initial cost of the station, we project somewhere probably right around $1,000 to $1,200 a year in licensing fees just for any music played online.
Obviously, with just getting started, I mean, it'd be tough. But do you foresee this going into all? I mean, I could see this being a full program where you have salespeople that go out and could sell ads for the surrounding areas, and which would easily offset your licensing fees and stuff like that. And I mean, I think that could be huge in this area, and also give the students a chance to really see both sides of the business.
And there is already some advertising interest out there, so that'd be great to see that come around. But we will have to move the antenna, I guess, back to that question. We're going to look at that. There's a spot we probably hang it off, makes the amount that stays high. And it'd be a short run back to the lab there. Honestly, we project somewhere probably around a 15 to 20 mile radius of the broadcast. So
that's awesome.
Definitely cover the city of Hayes and then some.
Great.
What kind of timeline are you looking at here?
That's a good question. From what I'm kind of understanding, some of that is in the hands of the FCC as far as the transfer of the station. I know I had filed for the FRN number and some good acronym, but
So next year sometime.
With that consultant, and so far it's been going pretty well, but I think they said it could be anywhere in 60 to 90 days, depending on it. And right now, government approval, that could back things up even further. So as soon as we can, we would like to get it moving.
I'm glad Dan brought up about working with the local, I would think with Eagle here in town and some of the way they support the district and a lot of our things. And I'm excited about this, being able to see a Hayes High graduate in TV broadcasting on KSN about every night. It'd be nice to go onto the radio side also. So I think this is a good program. for that group of students that that's the direction they want to go.
I think there's a lot of other skill sets too that's, I mean, it's one of
Tons.
those activities
Yeah.
that, I think from communicating
things.
verbally and writing. So I think, my guess is, not to put words in your mouth, but my guess is there's a vision here that it can become its own community of kids and participants, kind of their tribe, but not necessarily, I mean, let's, I guess for all transparency, my kid will be thrilled because he's going into this field, but I can see other kids still, like Chandler said, he was at radio desire, but it wasn't your degree that you pursued later on, so I think it sounds,
I think it's great.
I would have loved it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Something, we'll have to work hand in hand with local stations. It's nothing, I don't think we're looking at it as competition or anything. It's
Right.
Another education. You have students on there right now. So it'll just give them a different opportunity to get out there and on the air.
Cool. Well, I do know someone that went through the Garden City program who's currently living at my house. It's my stepson, so maybe we can, we can twist his arm to come and help you guys out if you need help. All right. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, best wishes.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Excellent opportunity.
Okay, moving on to reports. District communication from Superintendent Ron Wilson.
Okay, several things I want to share. First, I want to start with, as we start school this week on Wednesday, we will be starting with approximately 200, with a few more than 200 students who are starting in the remote learning environment. Part of with the agreement to move to the remote learning, and this is not a virtual option. This is remote, where we have some assurances that Kansas State Department of Ed has asked us to make sure that these things happen. In your packet, you will see those assurances, and it's just going to require a signature of the president from the Board of Ed as well as the superintendent of schools. Just wanted to run through these real quickly with the board, just so you understand what we will be doing and assuring that we will be doing with remote students. First of all, our number one, there's 5 of these assurances that we have to agree to, that during remote learning, the curriculum and instruction will coincide with the student's on-site classroom, so that there is a seamless transition should they return back to the classroom. And I think everything that we have set up currently will ensure that. Number 2 is that they will have a daily connection with a local teacher with all of our remote learners. We have talked at length with all of our teachers who will be monitoring the remote environment, and there'll be various ways they'll do that, but we will assure that there will be a daily connection. The third assurance is that the academic progress will be monitored, and once again, that'll be done by a local teacher. The fourth assurance is that we will have daily activity logs, and part of this is just to kind of monitor the students' academic progress, but also it's going to be a requirement for the state in terms of auditing, in terms of making sure that we have those students and we are teaching those students. And then the fifth one, assurance, is that we will make sure that any professional development needed for teachers who are monitoring and overseeing these programs will receive professional development opportunities. So those are the assurances that we will be providing to all our remote learners and families, and I think we have covered the bases, and I'm just no concern on our part of being able to do that. So
Okay.
I wanted to share that with the board, and then after the meeting, if I could get your signature, Mike, and
Sure.
get that sent.
Yep.
Because that's due later this week.
Okay.
I've also included in your packet the board goals that we worked on at the last meeting. just the one mention that I want to just make sure everyone was aware of, we added to the effective management of resources down at the very bottom, maintain stable financial structure under effective management of resources. And I believe if there's no corrections, those will stand as our board goals going forward. Wanted to spend also some time talking a little bit about the gating criteria. As we are, we're right on the cusp of starting school. Of course, there's been a lot of questions about how are we going to determine, what phase we're in, how do we look at restrictions in our community. We have been provided a guidance document from KSDE, and this is the guidance document that we plan to use in our conversations. We plan to meet with our administrative team here at the central office, as well as other Ellis County school administrators, as well as Jason Kennedy, the Ellis County health officer, and Dr. Harris, a medical doctor at Hayes Med. We will be meeting with all of them on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. We'll be going through all this gating criteria and kind of making some determinations based upon where our community is at. Now, of course, we had a little bit of maybe a shock moment today as numbers were released, and we had over 70 new cases reported in Ellis County today. I'm sure there is some concern from our community about how safe it is. In our conversations, and we met yesterday afternoon, we talked through the release of these numbers and what that would actually mean and what it looks like, and looking at our criteria. A lot of the numbers that you're seeing in these new cases are primarily from Fort Hays. I know it's not 100% coming from Fort Hays students, but prior to them coming to campus, they had the opportunity for a voluntary test. I think there were over 500 tests that were provided, and they had some positive results from those tests. But in visiting with Jason Kennedy, a lot of those tests were done before they came to campus. So actually knowing, when they were positive, it's hard to actually determine. There is the possibility that, and he called it debris, can be left in the saliva from having had the virus, and it can kind of be just left over, and that can also give you a positive case. So we are concerned, but at the same time, the one thing that we determined through our conversations, that there was really no risk in us looking at starting this week. I have been visiting with staff this week, and one of the things that I've really harped on, or not harped on, but really tried to make sure everyone understood, we are going to have cases in our schools. It will happen. Now, we have a plan that we have developed over the last several months, and we worked very hard to make it a good plan. Once that we have those cases, if we have the opportunity to put our plan in place, I think we will be able to keep everyone safe and healthy, and I truly, expect that, because of all the layers of defense we will be employing as important in the school day. So, with that, some of the gating criteria that we'll be looking at on these Tuesday morning meetings, we'll be looking at student absenteeism. Although we'll also be looking at the 2-week county percent positive rate, case rate. We'll also be looking at the 2-week cumulative county incidence rate. We'll also be looking at our trend data. Are we trending up or are we trending down? And we'll also be looking at our local hospital capacity. In addition, we have been putting together our local information, and Chris has been putting together hopefully a chart that we can also keep our numbers on, and we'll look at staff absenteeism as well as going forward. We're going to have, now the thing is, all these different criteria And the question is, well, how do you know when we move to a more restrictive environment? I think what we've learned is that, and this is a quote from Jason Kennedy, it is not all just a certain number that we can look at and say, oh, that's the number, when we get to that number, that when we move. He calls it a little bit of science and a little bit of art. You have to look at the numbers and understand what those numbers mean, but the art piece is what's the story behind all those numbers. And if you look at, if we were to score, our incidence rate going forward today with 70 new cases, plus we had some cases prior to that, we very well could be in the orange. But with understanding that a lot of those cases are due to students who were not in our community at the time they took the test. They took the test, sent the test in, and then came to our community. There's a lot of variables behind that. So I think each of these categories have various importance, but I do think some probably tend to weight a little stronger than others. Of course, student absenteeism is going to be important to us. We expect our student absenteeism to go up from what it has been in the past. So we'll be looking not just at data for this year, but we'll be going back last year to see where we were exactly a year ago in student absenteeism, and then look on top what we might be seeing. Our goal would be to have less than, no more than a 3% growth over last year. That would keep us in the green. If we go up to 6%, that's probably going to move us into the yellow, above last year. That's an important category. Also, we talked a little bit about staff. I have been saying over and over, the number one thing that I can see really being our dilemma is staffing, and having enough staff to adequately provide for the student instruction and all the support that requires to run a school. That will be a one that has a lot of weighting. If you look at one that maybe has less weighting, that county incidence rate, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to ever be in green on the, cases per 100,000 over the prior 2 weeks. Just almost going to be impossible for us to be green. Probably to be in yellow is our best case scenario. And that's just based upon, being a community that has a university of college students who, sometimes feel like they maybe are a little more, not as vulnerable as maybe sometimes we do. So there's a lot of variables in this gating criteria, but I do feel like, I think we have a good handle. The message that I have really tried to give everyone is that, what's amazing in schools, and if you've ever been a part of schools or been in schools during a fire drill, it's just really amazing how quickly and smoothly you can move students and staff completely out of a building in a very short amount of time. And it's just amazing. But what I've also been sharing with staff, and the reason we can do that is because we have a plan. We know where everyone's supposed to go when they hear that alarm. I tell staff, if we would suddenly divert from that plan and maybe in a sense have someone run down the hall and scream, fire, fire, get out now, you got to get out. Instead of actually, we would probably have a different scenario where people would be running and maybe knocking people over and not really knowing where everyone, and the reason that would be unsuccessful is because we would not be following the plan that we had put in place.
Right.
And I guess my analogy here is if we can get through the first month and work our plan and not pull the fire alarm, so to speak, I think we can really build confidence that we can get through this and grind through this. And I think that's important. Now, will people at times be anxious and have some anxiety? Sure, I completely understand. And our number one priority is to keep students students and staff as safe and as healthy as possible. And I think we've really put everything in place and thought of almost everything to make sure that can happen. So I wanted to, bring the gating criteria to you so you understand a little bit about what our conversations will look like on Tuesday mornings. Once we have those conversations on Tuesday, we'll also then deliberate and try to figure out what we need to do. By Wednesday, we would be making an announcement whether we will continue as is or we'll be making some changes for the following Monday.
Right.
So that's a little bit about the plan of the gating criteria. I don't know if there's any questions.
I know the feeling is out there after they read the numbers on Hayes Post today. I've got some emails today wondering if it was going to be discussed tonight and what our plans were. One of the questions that was put in one of the emails, Fort Hayes has been very transparent in saying we've got 71 or however many students test positive at the university. They were questioning whether the school district was going to put out a number of how many positives the school district has between students and staff. And I didn't know how to answer that.
Well, I think what the answer is what we've done, just in terms of we've had some student athletes who started practice last week, and we've messaged that out to everyone that, we have had some positive cases, and the information that would be. Should we have a positive case, we will message to to the people that are involved in that school or team that we've had a positive case, and these are the things that we would need for you to do to ensure everyone's health and safety. Okay, we good there?
Comments? Anybody? Questions? Comments? I do appreciate those. I like this. Have the teachers had a chance to see this and the staff? The gating
I'm
criteria?
not sure.
Transcon Casey is on the Navigating Change website, so
Okay.
it's accessible to anyone.
Because I know that early on, some folks were asking for this kind of information, and now it's available, so,
Share with admin, so that they
Yeah.
share with buildings, but we can get it out.
oh, I'm just,
Well,
Yeah.
I can see parents appreciating it.
yeah, for sure.
It just needs to be said, I believe, again, that thank you to all of you who are doing some very difficult work. And it is, I appreciate the emails and the comments that I've received, and I know so have all of the people among this board, but it is our desire to try to create the safest, most healthy, but also positive learning experience for our students of all ages, as well as the staff and employees that are impacted. And at this time, I think we're all in support of you and the decisions that you've made. And, I think, again, we've proven that we have the ability to be flexible as things change. And so thank you for creating the course that we're starting with now.
Very good. Yeah.
Bet. Thank you.
I think I speak for all the board that we feel we have confidence in you and your team, that you're put together a good plan. And as things change, you'll come to us and recommend different kind of actions if we need to take more steps. Maybe someday we can take the mask off. And, be a nice change.
Let's hope so.
Very good. Okay.
Just a couple other items I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of. Graduation for next year has been set for May 21st, 2020, and that will happen at Fort Hays State Gross Memorial Coliseum. So
Okay.
that was still up in the
back to
air,
there.
but we got confirmation that we can have Gross Memorial on May 21st. What? Oh, it's May 23rd. I said that wrong, I'm sorry. May 23rd.
It's a.
I don't know, I must have mistaken that.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that. And also, there was, just so the board knows, the gas line at Roosevelt Elementary that was to be done has been finished and is working, and so we're appreciative of that. And just also a reminder that originally we were to do our next meeting at Hayes Middle, but due to all the precautions and restrictions, we will not be hosting those work study sessions at the schools. We'll host them here at the board room in visiting with Mike. We will be moving those back to 6:30 on September 14th. My hope is that someday we can get back to having meetings in the school. I think it's a positive thing, but for a while we won't be able to do that. So
My rationale there, guys, was that since the purpose of going at noon was to be able to interact with the kids in the schools, and since we can't do that, generally I think evening meetings might be easier for us, so that's why I went back to 6:30. But we can discuss it if there's objections to do that. Okay, good. Very good. And I see we had some homemade masks donated by Jessica McGuire and Janice Zimmer. I noticed on the agenda there.
yeah, we've had a lot of people. I think
Maybe
we've
some
even
other
had
folks
some
too?
more people that have donated masks. We've had a lot of community people step up and donate masks by making masks and giving them to that will be distributing out to students when on an as-needed basis.
All righty. Okay, Ron, if you're finished, I'll move on to the
Yep.
next item number 7, action and discussion items. We have a number of things to discuss. Our action items tonight are approving the KASB policy update recommendations, or accepting them, accepting the, or not, the classified handbook revisions, and the district substitute teacher pay recommendations. Now, the other 2 items we need to discuss is the relocation of the Learning Center, possible location for the Learning Center, and the district technology network update. So, to get things rolling, I move to accept the KASB policy updates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Now we'll have discussion. So, any questions about the recommended policy changes?
I had some questions.
Okay, good.
Which ones were actual new to our policies? Is it
The actual new ones, I think they all go back, let me see exactly, revised.
It looked like, if I'm seeing this correctly, I guess, I just wanted to confirm that these were actually new. The KMA, tobacco-free school grounds for visitors.
Yes,
as well
that
as
is
the
a new one.
KNA, complaints
Yes.
regarding child nutrition. Okay.
Yeah.
But what changed with the GAAC sexual harassment one?
Well, there's new Title IX regulations that have been established by the Department of Ed. And actually, I'm in the middle of getting trained on all the new regulations, so I can't tell you exactly everything, but it's more about being fair and equitable in people who may report sexual harassment, discrimination to the charges or making allegations. So that'd be part of the training. I'll be receiving training this week through KSB on that. So.
Are you saying nothing was redlined, so you couldn't really tell what was the difference? Is that what you're asking, Tammy? Because that one, it's linked, but it doesn't have any corrections. Now, if you go down to the JGEC, same title, you can see, so maybe it's
Oh,
not
okay.
the same. Sometimes you find the same thing in multiple places in the policy book, because it falls under a lot of different areas.
Okay.
I was a little confused by that too.
It's just a policy that's
Oh,
going to talk, it's going to make more definition on what actually is sexual harassment and what actually would trigger the district's obligations to address sexual discrimination.
Well, that 89-page, is it a PDF or that document down below? That's a lot of stuff that are redlined. Yeah. So you can go through every single one and see what changes were made. So basically, Kansas Department of Education makes some changes. KASB looks through those changes and recommends policy updates for districts, and now it comes to us to approve those policy changes or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you, of course, the first one, the board superintendent relations, that is actually just a grammatical, add a couple commas and an and.
Right.
The investment of funds is just that monies within the district should be deposited in a bank inside the county that the district resides. Policy GAAB is just about sexual harassment and about reporting it to a Title IX administrator. Of course, we talked about GACC. Policy GAAD is just the mandatory child abuse reporting policy, just to make sure that annual training is provided to school employees on a yearly basis. We talked about the tobacco-free policy GAOC. That's just basically making sure that the nicotine or the electronic nicotine delivery systems are included in that. That's kind of the new thing.
Okay.
And so we didn't have that. Of course, policy HAE is just it just changes the word agent. So as the board appoints 2 or 3 board members to represent the district's interest in negotiations, used to say the word agent, now just say it's representatives.
Right.
Just it's all wording. Policy IC is the educational program policy, just updates, takes out the word curriculum handbook and changes it to curricular offerings. And then policy IJ, which is evaluation of instructional program, just basically it's about evaluating the instructional program and it's once again deleting the word shall and making using the word may. And so we've talked about once again, the JCDAA is a student policy, but once again, it just enters as a tobacco product, the electronic nicotine delivery system. Policy JGEC is just once again that what triggers sexual harassment and the district's legal obligation to respond. Policy JQKA is about foreign exchange students and just gives local school boards more authority in determining whether you want to admit foreign exchange students, and much like we do with out-of-district students.
Okay.
And of course, the new policy, KMA, and that's really more for parents. There was never a policy for parents and tobacco use. So it gives the districts a little bit of power to remove ask parents not to use tobacco on site, and really there's no discipline involved with that. And then, the policy KN is just about, once again, reporting to the Title IX coordinator about sexual harassment. And then the policy KNA is just, if we're going to participate in the federal lunch program, we have to have a non-discrimination policy. So that's a quick rundown of all the policies. I don't really see anything in there that we would not have the ability to, agree with. But
Okay.
once again, that's.
Sounds good.
I didn't know if you had, Mr. Jeter, do you go through these recommended policies that the School Board
I do.
Association recommends?
I do. And most of them, they're either KSB or Kansas Department of Ed directives, or maybe a change in federal law. And it's a good service that KSB provides, that they do that annually. So.
Okay. Good. Very good. All right. Any more discussion, folks? I will call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the KASB policy recommendations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. Motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Now, the next one is the classified handbook. May I have a motion to accept the revisions to the classified handbook?
So moved.
Thank you, Tammy. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Thanks, Alan. All right, now we'll have some discussion. So,
The one thing I would draw your attention to, and really this is the big major change, and I think it's a very positive change. At the bottom of page 5 in the classified employee handbook, there is a section called the longevity bonus. This is something that we've worked on to try and clean up from when the custodial maintenance had their own union and was dissolved, and we've worked on some language. I know Chris has worked on this. Chris, is there some things you want to?
It was written, it was kind of vague, or needed a little more clarification in places and left room for interpretation. I think in going through this, we squared it up so that it's pretty straightforward and most importantly, matches the intent of what that whole process of negotiating and dissolving or not recognizing that union anymore. I feel like now we're all on the same page. It says exactly what it was supposed to say. It accomplishes what it was supposed to accomplish. And so it was a good collaborative effort between some of the custodial maintenance folks who have been around a long time and knew exactly what the intent was when it was put in place. And now we've got the language to match it, and so we can implement it and follow up the figure there.
okay, good. Any questions, folks? Comments?
I just had one thing, Chris. Just the next section down on leaves, right under that, it talks about taking leaves in 30 minutes and then going in 15-minute increments. Is that a lot of paperwork for district staff to keep track of 15-minute leave if they're taking it every 15 minutes or not taking it, rather than a quarter of a day or a half a day?
So I'm glad you brought that up because that is a change this year. We did last year. I said we because it worked with Keith a little bit because it primarily affects the special education cooperative the most. Here's what we have. So we may have parents or say they're college students or they're working at the high school, and one day they may work 6 hours and the next day they may work 3 hours. So then when you start calculating leave based on a portion of a day, so what's a half of a day? Well, my Monday is different than my Tuesday, or if I'm at the high school, Maroon Day is what day of the week. And so we were running into a lot of problems. So we did a pilot with a group of special ed parents last year and did it basically this way. And the end result is, it's a little more flexible for the employees to be able to do it in 15-minute increments, but we felt like it wasn't being abused. And I think we can pull this off. And then what it really accomplishes is those people with a varying schedule one day to the next, we can track their leave and make sure that we're getting them the amount of leave that is intended without having docs and paybacks and all that stuff. So we reserve the right to come back a year from now and say, 15 minutes was more than we thought it was going to be, but I think we can. I think the HR and the payroll staff is committed to making sure that we're treating our folks right, doing the right thing by them, and they think that they're confident that we can make this work.
Okay, thanks.
And it doesn't change, so it's all non-certified staff or hourly time card people. For certified teachers, it doesn't change. It's still a half-day leave or a full-day leave, and a lot of that is because of we get subs and things like that.
Very good, very good. Any further questions or comments? All right, I'm going to call for a vote. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the revisions for the classified handbook, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, now, a motion to accept the proposed substitute teacher pay. Okay, I'll make that motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I can-
Anyone
I'll
want to make a second?
I will.
Okay, Tammy, thank you. All right, discussion about the proposed substitute teacher pay change.
Yeah, this is just, you can see what we're doing currently. We're paying $90 per day for substitutes. We'd like to increase it to $110 per day. For those who have 15 consecutive or more days, that they're paid $150. We would like to increase that to $170 after 15 consecutive days. And those who are here for 45 consecutive days or more, currently it's 202, and we'd like to move that to 220. So we feel like this will put us in a competitive range with other area schools and will really allow for us to, I guess, reward our substitutes who are going to be are very valuable, but they're going to be even more valuable this year.
Yeah. Well, if I understand it correctly, we have not changed those amounts for a long,
I think quite a while, though
Yeah.
they've been at the current rates for quite a while.
Not that that means we need to change them, but it does seem like it's a time to change, and we'll probably be relying on substitute teachers more this year than we ever had been, so, yeah.
If a teacher takes, let's say, a extended leave for maternity or other reasons, and we know it's going to be more than 15 days, do they start at the higher rate?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got some folks coming in, like at the
Okay.
beginning of this year, that we know are going to be longer than 45 days.
Right.
So they're starting.
So they don't have to wait till that 15 day to get more, the higher?
Yes.
But in the case, though, that we didn't realize it and it goes over, then they get prorated?
Yeah, they would get retro, I
Or-
believe.
yeah,
I'll check
retro,
on that
yeah.
and confirm, but I believe that's the case.
Okay.
So do you know of any like retired educators willing to sub or people with the 60 hours of college credit, emergency sub? We are looking for subs and other positions. We do have some vacancies in different para classified
Right.
positions. So
Right.
that just makes it even more difficult to get started when you're short staffed. So from anyone who might be interested listening out there, to check our employment tab on our District 49 site.
Very good, yes, yes.
So, 4A students.
We need people. All right, folks, any further discussion? Nope, okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the the substitute pay increase? Please, let me restate that. All in favor of the proposed student teacher pay, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, now moving on to our discussion items. The first is the relocation possibilities for the Learning Center. I suppose Ron wants to, you have some information for that?
Yeah, I just wanted to take the time this evening to start talking with the board about looking at some possibilities as relocating our learning center. Just a little background. About a year ago, we were battling some flooding issues here at Rockwell. The learning center was here in the basement. I guess you could consider this part of the basement, but they were in the far the west side of Rockwell. We just were having tremendous, at that time we were having some big rains and we were not able to keep water out, and then plus as things were getting wet there was some concerns of mold and mildew and all that comes with damp basements. And so at that time we determined that we would move the learning center to our Washington facility, Washington School facility. We have been holding the Learning Center classes there at Washington School in the, I guess what I would call the new annexed part of Washington School. It has served its usefulness very well. We have done there some really good things. With the anticipated sale of Washington School here in December, I think we need to start looking at what we can do. Here, the old learning center, or the classroom, the former classroom, we have pretty much, I wouldn't say 100% gutted the place. We've tore a lot of the tiles out, torn part of the walls out, hauled out all the any bad areas. We're still battling some leak issues, but we think that we can fix that fairly efficiently. However, I've made the determination that I really would not like to move the Learning Center back to that spot. Not that it didn't serve its time well here, for over 20 years, but I just think it's not probably the best learning environment. It's kind of a dark, dingy area of Rockwell. I think maybe we could create a better space for our students in terms of just some more sunlight and maybe making it a little more appealing. So we do have a place here at Rockwell that I think in coordination or combination with another move, I think would make a lot of logical sense. Helping Hands is a program out at Hayes High that is actually located here at Rockwell, and I don't know if everyone knew that. Everyone on the board knew that. They come here for their classes, and they produce some really good cookies and cakes and all kinds of goodies in a kitchen that is just off of our maintenance area over in Rockwell. And the kitchen is a very nice commercial sized kitchen. Has lots of nice equipment, and it's a really great space. What I'd like to recommend is that we move Helping Hands to a location with looking at possibly building a space out at Hayes High. And this is an interesting thing about Hayes High, would be the south end of Hayes High is kind of a metal building attachment for the vocational wing. What we would be looking at is adding on in some area, and we've got several options, but adding on a metal building similar to what's already there at Hayes High. That would be a commercial kitchen. It would be way more useful than being 10, 12 minutes away from Hayes High. They would just be able to go down the hallway and be able to do their work in the classroom. Wouldn't be spending 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes on a bus, and would just save them a lot of time. Plus, then it opens up this classroom here that eventually, once we get everything done, we would be able to move the Learning Center back into the space here at Rockwell that Helping Hands currently is at. I think, we've thought a lot of options. We've thought a lot about it. I think this presents some really good, kind of serves us in getting the Learning Center back to a better spot. Also serves Helping Hands in terms of being closer to the site that all those students attend, and makes it way more useful. In the short term, this project really, what we're looking at is, for anything, we're still a year away from being able to even consider doing something like this. But in the short term, if you're looking at the closing of Washington, the sale on the Washington building will happen in December. We would have to be out for the start of second semester in January. We have looked at some local options here around town. We have several options, and I think we have, although we've not finalized anything yet, I do feel like we have at least two really good options that we can look at in terms of locating the Learning Center short term while we make all the necessary changes here within the district, and then would eventually, hopefully at some point, be able to bring the Learning Center back or such. As far as the current space in the basement, we do have plans that we would like to possibly move some offices in there. We would be maybe looking at moving some technology office in there, as well as a maintenance office. And it would give us some meeting space, so when we do have, maintenance staff or even a technology meeting, they would have some great meeting space. And I think that's, wouldn't really have students in there. It would just be USD 489 staff who would be housed in that basement area. So just wanted to run those options by you. We don't really have any definites yet. Well, I mean, if we would be wanting to do anything like this, we'll be coming back with some, of course, there'd be some things where we'd have to, get some ideas on what we were looking at as far as cost. We do have some initial, what it would possibly take to build a classroom out at Hayes High. Of some initial, I guess, cost estimates that we feel like are pretty accurate in terms of what we could do out there. Okay. So, I don't know, any questions on any of that?
No, I think it's a lot. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. So we would like to, we'll need some time to think about it and
Sure.
more discussion about this.
There'll be more discussion.
I did not realize that. I know a lot about Helping Hands, but I did not know they were over there.
Yeah.
But I understand why, because they need a kitchen, a big professional kitchen. So, I think it would be good to get those students back in the high school if we can.
Be a lot more things that we could do with that program, I think, if we were on site. They do a great job in their business and promoting their business and selling, but I do feel like it would create a lot more flexibility and just opportunities for them if they were on the Hayes High School site.
I have a question just about, you talk about the Rockwell building here having that water leakage, and has it been tested though for the mold and the different types of mold?
Yeah, we've done some testing in there, and we have torn out anything that would maybe have been considered mold. Anytime I would be glad to give you a tour of it. It's pretty rough looking right now because it's kind of been, like I said, probably about 80% gutted at this point. So I don't think there's any concern going forward. Once we can get everything officially plugged up, I think, and if we can get some things put back in, I think it'll be a good facility for staff.
I know from just following the long-range facility planning that the district has done over the years, there's been kind of a resistance to put much capital outlay money back into this building because there's been a lot of talk of not having this as part of the school district if we were looking at a bond issue or moving forward. So that'd be one thing I think we need to think about.
And I'm probably a little different. I've probably brought a different perspective than what has previously been thought of. To be honest with you, I see us in Rockwell for, I don't see us leaving for a while because there's just too many needs, and this building does have some flaws, but at the same time it does serve us in a lot of ways, gives us adequate space in a lot of ways. So that's probably maybe, and I've had some conversations with Rusty about some things that we have done just recently in the last year in terms of making this kind of fixing up some areas maybe that have been overlooked in the past because of that thinking, that maybe this facility is not. But I truly believe that we're going to be here for a while at Rockwell, and we have to kind of shore up some of our leaks and faults, and that doesn't mean that we still don't have a plan for going forward with some things in the future, but I think in the short term we have this is an office and we have people in here, and we just got to make sure it's taken care of.
Now, the Learning Center is located in Washington right now?
Yes, Washington School.
Washington School. And where were you thinking that the Learning Center was going to be located at next?
Well, in the long term, the goal is to move them to where Helping Hands is currently.
Right.
But that's the long term. The short term would be looking at one of our options around town at some of the spaces that are for lease for short periods of time. And we're still working on that, still trying to find our best options, but that would be a short-term option.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I think with any big project, the board's concern is making sure that we use our funding, our money wisely and planning for the future. And so I think we need to look at this plan. It might be the best use for our money because we're doing a lot of things. On the other hand, we might need to decide whether or not we need to make this change. So I think the board will need to discuss this a bit more.
Yeah, we're not asking for any action.
Right.
This is just a start of a discussion that we are looking at options, and we'll be coming to you with something probably a little more concrete in terms of A and B and C and D, and what that would look like. But this is just an initial conversation to start the dialogue, and
Yeah, well, I do understand that, and we do understand that we need to move out of Washington at some point, and so we can't stay there.
yes.
And I agree that putting the students back, putting that program back where it was would just be a mistake, because those rooms are not, well, they've been gutted, as you mentioned, so. Okay. Any other comments, guys? Okay. And we will be discussing next month the sale of Washington.
Yeah, we'll be bringing to you, I talked to Bill today, we'll be bringing the resolution to you to look at,
Okay.
just to first read, and then
discussion.
we'll be looking at having you take action in October, the following month.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, moving on. The District Technology Network Update.
I wanted to come speak with you tonight. One of the projects we've been looking at has been, I don't know, I'd say probably going on half a year now. Just kind of looking at an update to our data center.
Oh, okay,
We
right.
started to have a few issues in that data center, and it kind of got us all started. Shutdown happened, kind of got things thrown on the back burner. Coming back around to it, I've been working with a couple of our tech committee members, Lance will help now, Alan Longser, Derek Johnson, just trying to run some ideas past. We've gone from completely cutting edge and looking at the cost of that, going, ooh, that's a scary cost, to backing it down.
Okay.
What you see attached is more of a traditional infrastructure. It's what we've got now. But I guess kind of lay some background on what we have as far as our data center, because obviously the thing about data center and a purchase like this, it's not something that's out there that you can see, so it's not, the attractive purchase, the shiny new iPad or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just equipment that gets everything done behind the scenes. Right now we have two sites, our production site and then our DR, disaster recovery site. Production site is one 4-post rack of equipment up at Eagles Head underneath the tower on hall. The secondary site, our DR site, is here at Rockwell in our office, and it's one 4-post rack of equipment. The reason those are located where they're located, the production server room used to be at Hayes High. Prior to my start here, I think probably a year or two prior to my start, that was moved up to Head-In. There were air conditioning issues out at Hayes High. They were leaving doors propped open, and it just wasn't a good fit. There was 2 racks of equipment, so at the time of moving, they consolidated a lot of the equipment through virtual technology and moved up there. really the reason for locating the Eagle. Every one of our buildings is connected by a fiber optic network. All of that fiber aggregates at Eagle's head in, so it just made sense. We've got to put a firewall and switch there anyway. Just having the data center there, it's one less hop, back to a building that we have to run. A few years into my time here, we switched that up. We weren't paying for that space. Eagle was providing that to us. We were very appreciative of that. I was a little nervous on that because, Eagle was not growing. I could see, somewhere down the road, and then need for, space.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we were covered, we're going to get kicked in the curb someday. Not saying that they would do that, but just having that covered. We did end up working an agreement, paying a monthly rental for that rack space out there. I think it's somewhere right around, say, $900 a month is what we pay for space up there, and that does provide power, air conditioning, and generator backup.
Okay.
What you see attached tonight is refreshing all of that equipment, both at the production site and PR. What's not here, and what I'm kind of looking at, is the possibility of bringing the servers back on site. Like I said, not that I'm not appreciative of what Eagle's provided, and that may be where we want to end up still. But just looking at the options, if there is, to bring it back here, just from a accessibility standpoint, because if something does go down right now, you've got to call and schedule access to it.
Oh, right.
They've worked with us on every occasion, but if it goes down after hours, we've got to wait for an on-call technician to come in and let us in. Just looking at different options there. What you see here as far as the production site and the DR site, the equipment at those consists of really 3 tiers: the compute, the storage, and the backup. Compute power is done through VMware, and that's where all of our virtual machines reside. Right now we run 3 VM hosts, 2 at Eagle, 1 here, and that provides the redundancy if you were to lose one site. Right now we can really run on 2 servers. We can run down to 1, but we've got to trim some running services to do that. What's being proposed here is 2 VMs at each site, so it would be a full redundant setup. We wouldn't have to cut services in the event that we would need to fail over at the backup site. It doesn't include a propellant storage array at both sites. Right now we're using escapes me what it is right now. But it's a similar storage array. A lot of people out there. And then backup appliances, we're currently using data domains, and that will be switched over to an IDPA product. Once again, it's a similar product to what we have. It's just refreshing all that equipment. Most of it was put in. We put in some since I've been here, but most of it was put in prior to my start, probably in that 2014 timeframe.
Okay.
It does include installation with it. I'm trying right now to get a breakdown on that cost, $10,000. That includes, I guess as they phrased it, the cradle to grave install. They'll come in, help us. We are responsible for racking the equipment past that. We would have assistance from both Eagle and Salina and Dell themselves in configuring the equipment and transition over. And it did just strike me that I should probably make a clarification. What you're seeing here, Eagle Technologies, is a company out of Salina that's not affiliated with Eagle here in Ames.
No, okay.
2 different companies. So that would, there would be the help there in getting it up and going. It does include some switching at both sites. As far as putting a 10 gig switch in, that's just for interconnectivity between that new equipment. That's not addressing anything network-wise on the more global scape of the district.
Okay.
That's another conversation for few more years down the road, we'll come back to that. It does include our VMware, which is the virtual technology. Right now, the version of VMware that we're on has been sunsetted, so they do not provide support for it. So it would be moving up to a new copy of that is currently in support. There are additional pieces to this that we've looked at as far as cloud backup or Office 365, migrating our mail server, which is still a physical server here, moving that off to the cloud. I know those pieces play in. I'm just kind of holding on to those right now because the costs are a little out there. And I want to make sure that we do that right. And there may be the possibility that these appliances could step in and help us with some of that in the next 6 months. The technology's just not quite there yet, but it's coming. Once again, working with Lance and Alan and Eric on it, there have been some questions. Trying to sort it out. There are some other vendors out there as far as products go. We've been a Dell shop, and I'm pretty happy with that, and I guess that's kind of where I keep planting my flag. Just it works for us. There are other ones out there. HP has an enterprise line. Cost-wise, it looks, when I talk to the company, Eagle themselves, I guess, they deal in both Dell and HP. To them, the cost would be pretty similar. They've had better luck on the Dell side of the equipment. I think it's who you talk to, what you get. I mean, honestly, I think at the end of the day, the equipment's going to run, it's going to provide us the service we want.
Okay.
I know that's kind of the 30,000 foot overview. I guess I want to pause, see if there's any questions at this point.
Scott, just a couple of questions. Your timeline, what are you wanting to look at as a timeline?
Also attached, I guess I didn't go through that, but there is a Dell Finance.
I saw
piece
that.
there. That's good through September, but what that would be breaking out the cost, 178,000. We'd be doing it over a 3-year lease, provided through Dell, at quite a low percentage rate, 0.3%. I had to double check on that because it really only comes out to about $1,500 a year on interest. So, time frame on it would be, I've got some questions still to work through, but if it were to be approved in the next meeting or two, however that would fall out. The equipment itself would still have to be ordered. I think they're still talking 90-day lead time, so we really wouldn't be talking installation of equipment until probably late this fall. Possibility, if we're already getting that late into the fall, I may hold off until Christmas break. A longer time there where we could transition equipment. The only fear in some of that, and it's more on the ordering side, as much as I'm worried about competing with other schools and getting equipment ordered, May, June.
Right.
There's a side of this where regular businesses are trying to spend their end of the year money, so we've in some competitions there for timeline too. Companies trying to do their last minute orders for the year because they're trying to put their budgets out before December. That would be probably the only pickup that we may run into timeline-wise, but eventually still get it all done this fall. And really, I guess coming back to the push on it, the VM equipment that we're running now, those servers were put in 2014. All 3 boxes are showing errors. Right now, they're correctable errors. So what we have to do, we have 3 hosts. We'll transition off whatever host has errors. We'll move that off to one of the other 2 boxes. Physically have to shut that host down, de-rack it, open it, full memory, and reverse everything, re-rack it, restart it, and move everything back over. The end user sees none of that, and that is probably the most glorious piece of VMware, or I mean just virtual machines in general. I can move them in lifetime, and the end user never knows. But I know that we're starting to have those errors, and they're still correctable right now. I just don't want to back us into a corner where we do lose a host, now all of a sudden we're down to 2 hosts. You know, what do? We can still run on 2, but it just puts us in an uncomfortable spot of what happens when one of those goes.
Scott, I know you've had a technology plan for replacing the hardware and buildings and different things. Has this been part of the technology plan where this would fit in?
It has. It's been more, it's honestly been looked at more as a piece by piece. But as I started having this conversation about replacing the M-host, then we talked, well, storage rolls into that. And in talking with Dell, it's never, I guess, a real comfortable thing to talk about a 4-foot upgrade, especially next school year. But if we're going to do it, kind of getting all the pieces to play together, it's the time to do it. Because you may end up running into a scenario where you bought the server, and now all of a sudden, you've got a plan. Honestly, my plan was to put equal logic arrays back in, and then I called Dell and I find out they retired the equipment for the 3rd time. It's just been that good that they bring it back, and then they retire it and bring it back. So about the time I think I get a handle on some plans like that, equipment changes, so kind of tying it all together at one point. Yeah, it's a bigger number. That's where I was hoping the leasing kind of split out, keep it in the budget that we were roughly planning.
Very good. Well, I do appreciate the work you're putting into this, and that's why we have a technology committee. At least I will rely on the technology committee and Lance to guide us in these decisions. So I think we have a good process in place. But I also like the idea that you're moving forward or something, and it ties back into the discussion we just had about relocating the learning center, is that we can't wait for a bond to pass. We have to move forward or something else to happen. We need to keep moving forward. And I think what you're doing is telling us that you're planning ahead and moving forward. So appreciate that.
Like I said, I really appreciate, the Lance and Alan and Derek helping me out on that.
Okay.
Instead of just dealing it by myself and kind of looking through stuff, it's nice to have that sounding board, that group to go back to and know that, hey, that's maybe a little over ambitious or not ambitious enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, moving on to the next item is the board discussion, future meeting agenda requests. I have 3 items to discuss briefly, but I'll wait and see if anybody else has some discussion points or future agenda requests.
My agenda request is what it has been in the past, is a psychological program.
I'm sorry.
My agenda request is what it has been in the past, a psychological program that is,
And we're planning on that in
yes,
September.
right.
The final piece just came together, so we will
okay.
get that reported to you.
Very good. Okay. Okay, 3 items I have are, one is the school board member search. Now, I understand that an ad read in the paper last week. I have to admit that I didn't see it, so did anybody else see that ad that was in the classified section of the newspaper for our board member?
I don't read the newspaper.
Okay, well, I guess we'll trust that it was out there. I know you sent it in, Jess. I'm not questioning you, but I didn't see it in the paper myself, but maybe I missed it.
Did it run one day?
I thought it ran 5 days. Yeah.
On that same note, I'm afraid there's some people out in the community that might not have seen it also. So I'm not sure if we can get it publicized another way, that we're searching for a board member also. And I'm not looking directly at Hayes Post, but we can use all the help.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there is there's a requirement that we have to
Yes.
Right.
advertise in the news, but that doesn't mean that's the only place that we
Right.
can put the advertisement, so. We have received one application so far.
Okay.
So,
Let's think about putting it on our website somewhere. That way people can
can do
access it
that.
there. Because we don't want people to feel like we don't want people to miss it if they're looking for it. So let's please put it on the website. It looks like we're still okay, time-wise, if we get it out, because it was in the paper, we met our requirement, and now if we put it on our website, it still should give people time to, so we can interview applicants on September 28th, as we already planned to do. So, good. All right.
Sarah Watson, just reminding you, we get some chamber inserts on newsletters as part of our membership, so that one's going to run September 1st, just because it gets a lot of people.
Oh, yeah,
So
great.
That might be a way for the register as well.
Good, thanks.
just be careful what you wish for. You don't want 100 candidates. That's the other thing.
I know, that's right. Well, I've been contacted by 2 people, so I think at least we'll have 2, you know. It's a good thing Sarah was in the room to remind us about the newsletter, is that right? Okay, good. The second is, one of our responsibilities as a board is to evaluate the superintendent. We do this once a semester for a couple of years and then once a year. And our next one's coming up in October. So I'll be reaching out to board members next month to do a little survey, and then I'll work up the report like we did last time. Now, I forgot to do something. We did our last evaluation in May. I did provide a copy of the report that we all looked at on May 28th, but I don't think I ever let you know that I did that. So I did provide the report to Ron. We meet about once a week, and we talk about district issues, and part of our discussion was the evaluation and evaluation issues. Just want to let the public know that the evaluation was very positive, and that I am pleased that many of the areas that we saw needed some improvement, Ron is working on those. So that's my little report. So, third item is, do you have something?
Mike, when is the 60th day?
Well, I don't know, because we started on the 20,
You know, we haven't recalculated this. We usually send them for teachers if you want to know what they are, and I'll let you know as well, to be consistent. That's up to you, unless you want to use July, because it's a different problem.
well, we do need to do by the 60th day, so,
Well, it
Should
should be
be fine.
completed by the 60th, and I think the conference with the superintendent should be within 5 school days of the 60th day.
okay,
So we might look at that and see when
2
that might
months
be, so we
from
can
the start of school.
follow that
Well,
guideline.
it's September, October. Yeah,
It's 5 school days.
yeah, let me know, that's fine.
It's really,
60th days of the semester.
I'm not really worried about this, we do it and we'll get it done.
It'd be no big deal.
60th school
I'll make sure it gets done, I'll reach out to you.
of the semester.
Third item, folks, is that I've asked the administration to look into possibilities of replacing our chairs in the room. Because these things are just not working out for us very well. We've had them forever. So maybe find out if we can fix these chairs, or we find out what it would cost to replace them. I want to make it known, of course, that this room is used all the time. It's not just used every other week for a board meeting. And these chairs get used by many more people than just us. So, and as a board, we'll decide if we want to purchase chairs. I'm just asking the superintendent to go look and see what's out there. And if we decide as a board that we don't want to spend the money on that, cool. If we decide that we can do so and be responsible and provide good chairs for not only board members, but everybody else who uses this room for training, et cetera, then we'll vote on that, so. Okay. Those are my 3 items. Now, we need to move to executive session. We have 3 issues to discuss. One deals with personnel matters. One is employer-employee negotiations issue, and the other deals with real property. So, I'll go ahead and move for the first one. I move to enter into executive session pursuant to the Kansas Open Meetings Act for the purposes of discussing matters relating to non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume in this board meeting at, how much time are we going to need?
I would say 15 minutes.
Okay. We will, 5, 10, 15. I'm going to say 8:30 so people can have a restroom break if they need to. Or whatever else. You don't have to use the restroom. In addition to the board, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, director of curriculum, and the assistant superintendent of business services, and do we want Kyle in the room too? Kyle,
Sure.
director of
Yeah.
special education, and the board attorney are invited to attend. Do I have a second for my motion?
Second.
Thanks, Lance. Any more discussion or any discussion at all? Okay. All in favor of moving into executive session for item number 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? No. Okay, vote electronically the same way, please. So,
I would also.
Do you wanna stay here?
Let's stay here because of the multiple
Yeah.
times that we have
Okay.
to make motions. So it'll be much easier if we can stay in this room.
okay.
Do we need to turn off cameras or microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes though before we start because
Do you want any of the public to know that will there be any action after the
Oh, good point.
executive sessions?
Public, we will not do, we're going to handle these 3 executive sessions, and that's the end of the meeting, so.